This is Mobile Suit Gundam Journey to Jaburo, released first in Japan for the PlayStation 2 in December of 2000, and then later released in North America in August of 2001. The game consists of 9 stages, based off of various episodes from the original anime. It also has 3 extra missions that allow you to play from either the Federation's perspective, or that other side. The game received mixed reviews at best when it was first released. Most critics, however, agreed that the game was made for Gundam fans, and really no one else. Having spent a good amount of time playing the game in my childhood, I confess that they were not wrong. The controls handle terribly, and there is very little the game offers on paper. But in the early 2000s, I had just been introduced to the world of Gundam, and I couldn't get enough. And so, Journey to Jaburo was my very first Gundam game. Not that long ago, when I dug up my old PlayStation 2, I was curious to see if Journey to Jaburo was as I had remembered it. Upon starting up the game, I looked up my records for the campaign missions, expecting to find nothing but S ratings. Yet, to my surprise, I discovered that that was not the case. In fact, according to the scoreboard, I was actually terrible in 4 of the 9 stages, average in 3 other stages, and only in 2 did I ever get S ratings in. I could not allow this to be my childhood's legacy, so I challenged myself to get an S rating in all of the campaign missions. Now, since I already had 2 S ratings for missions 6 and 9 for this video, we won't be worrying about those. If you're curious, however, mission 6 is the one where you fight Jaburo for the final time in his gulf, and 9 is the defense of Jaburo, and where you fight Char for the final time on Earth.
Gundam Rising.
Stage 1 is basically the first episode where Amuro first enters the Gundam and takes out 2 Zakus. Except, in order to get an S rating, we need to also take out the 3rd Zaku. The challenge here is you don't have a primary weapon, just head Vulcans and a beam saber. My first attempt got off to a shaky start since I needed to relearn the controls. I also didn't remember where the 3rd Zaku appeared, so I wasted some time running around the map. But getting a B rating for my first attempt in 20 years seemed promising. For the second time around, I went in search for the 2nd Zaku first, made my way to the 3rd, and then ended with the 1st. And despite finishing faster than the first time around, I only improved slightly with the B+. 3rd time, same strategy, A-. Finally, on the 4th try, I got the S rating. Despite my satisfaction, this is where things began to get a little confusing. You see, I had done the exact same thing all 4 times, and each time had gotten different ratings. The way the game scores your performance is by 1. The amount of time it takes you to finish the mission. 2. How much HP you have left at the end of the mission. And 3. What your success rate is, which is determined by how much damage you and your allies cause. But, as you can see, although there are only 3 targets in this mission, each time I got a different success rate, leading me to theorize that your performance is ultimately RNG based.
Winds of War.
Stage 2 is where the real challenge began, because the aim in this game is just the worst. It's not even worth trying. It's better to rely on the lock-on button, even though that has its own problems. Because when there are multiple targets, it can be difficult locking onto the one you want. And even if it works, upon firing your special attack, you'll automatically lose the lock-on, meaning that you have to directly be facing your target in order to score a hit. And that's assuming your target isn't moving. There's not much to explain as far as strategy goes. Both you and the white base go down a straight line, and you shoot down the targets along the way, until you get to the end where Garma and eventually Char appear. And for attempt number 1, I ended up with a B. Looking good so far, right? Actually, I did worse on my 2nd attempt. A C- to be exact. This was mainly because I was still learning how to use the thrusters properly, and it obviously did not go so well. Fortunately, 3 attempts were all I needed, which was strange since I didn't think my performance was all that good. I didn't even get the cutscene where Garma appears in his personalized Zaku. Yet, somehow it was enough. My guess is that the score is also dependent on how much damage the white base takes.
Garma's fate.
In order to get an S rating in Stage 3, you had to have figured out the controls pretty well. Otherwise, you'll just have to accept getting by with a low score. This stage is based off of the episode where Char betrays Garma, in what has to be one of the most iconic scenes in all of anime, not just Gundam. For my first attempt, I was reminded of how bad the stun locks in the game can be. There are no dodge rolls or tackles like in Battle Operation 2, and Char can mess you up if you're not careful. Although I had started to get the hang of things by my second time around, I had actually made a really bad rookie mistake. You see, over the course of the mission, you'll need to take out 2 Gao carriers that fly around the map. The first one, I took out just fine, but when I shot down the second one, it ended up crashing into the stadium where the whiteface was hiding, resulting in me failing the mission. As for the third time around, at least I finished the mission. Aside from that, I was still terrible. The 2 main reasons why I didn't do so good were because 1, the whiteface still took a lot of damage, and 2, it took me way too long to finish the mission. I did a little better the 4th time around, but the whiteface once again took too much damage. The reason for this is because the second Gao carrier that needs to be shot down flies directly over the whiteface, meaning that you either need to shoot it down really fast so that it doesn't crash into the whiteface, or shoot it down after it flies by, meaning that the whiteface will still take some damage. At long last, after 7 attempts, I took out the Zaku near the whiteface first. From there, I went after the first Gao, and soon went after the second and third Zakus, since there was time before the second Gao came into range. Once the second Gao was shot down, it was Char's turn. After a quick cutscene, I just waited for the middle Gao carrier and shot it down. And with that, the stage was over. Oddly enough, however, it seems that the success rate for the mission really doesn't matter all that much, since I only got a 32% this time around.
The threat of Zeon.
Stage 4 is based off of the episode where Amuro first encounters Jaburo in the Goof. When I was a kid, I often pretended like I was playing a Gundam Wing game instead, since the goal of the stage is to attack a military base. Unfortunately, as much fun as that was, it didn't meet the requirements for getting a high score. As a result, the best I ever got before was an F rating. The objective is simple enough. Destroy the primary targets marked red on the map and the 2 Zakus. Jaburo will appear soon after. As soon as you destroy his shield, or at least knock him down, that will end the mission. If only it were so simple. My first attempt seemed promising. I managed to cut down my time by nearly half of what it was some 20 years ago, and I ended up with a B-. Not an S, but still a lot better than an F-. My second try was only a little better, a solid B to be exact, and I did it in almost a full minute less than in my first attempt. I continued to improve on my third attempt by getting an A-. Still not an S, but I was getting closer every time. Then reality hit, and it seemed that A- was as good as I can get. And for the next several attempts, and believe me, there were several upon several attempts at this, I tried everything. I tried using other weapons like the bazooka. Still, no. I even tried wiping out everything on the map. Not one yellow dot on the map was spared. And still, no S rating. In fact, it seemed that my ratings were only getting worse, making me believe even more that this game's rating system was RNG based. It got to the point where I wasn't sure if I would be able to complete this challenge. After some 20 attempts, I decided I needed a break from stage 4 and moved on to other stages.
Cross of Sand.
Stage 5 is based off the episode after Amuro leaves the White Base and attacks a Zeon mining base. Like with the previous stage, the objective is to attack a military base. And yes, my younger self did the same thing by attacking the base as if I were some Gundam Wing pilot. And much like before, because of that, I never got a good rating. This one is pretty straightforward. Circle around and eliminate the turrets before going into the base. From there, take out the designated targets. Mikuve will then appear as the final boss. There will be some Zaku 2s that can prove to be a little annoying, so it might be best to focus on them first. After, jump on top of Mikuve's mobile armor, and take out his 4 legs, or whatever they're supposed to be called. And for once, I managed to get an S rating on my first attempt. This was almost too easy.
Soldiers of Sorrow.
Stage 7 is where you have to fight the Black Tri-Stars. This one might actually be the hardest mission in the game. Each Dom has a bazooka and they can easily stun lock you if you're not careful. Aside from that, it's not too difficult. Once you cause enough damage to one of the Doms, that'll trigger a cutscene where Miss Matilda tries to help you. After that, just wreck anything that moves and protect the white base. For a first attempt, I actually got off to a solid start with an A+. But I made a big mistake the second time around by using the Hyper Hammer. I figured it might actually help me out in fighting against 3 Doms at once. However, it turns out that the Hyper Hammer doesn't exactly stagger upon first impact. So my second attempt was a struggle. But I did learn something that could help me out in future attempts. At first glance, it appears that only 2 of the Doms appear on the map at the start. This is because the 3rd Dom appears behind the white base after the mission starts. All you have to do is wait for it. This is actually faster than charging at the 2 Doms in the middle of the map. So, for my 3rd time around, I went behind the white base and waited. And in the end, this new strategy resulted in an S rating.
Across the Atlantic Ocean.
There's actually not much to say about Stage 8, just shoot at anything that moves. By this time around, I had become very comfortable with the bad controls, so much so that I almost completely forgot that they were bad controls at all. And with that, I managed to get another S rating on my first attempt. But it was still not time to celebrate. I had some unfinished business with Stage 4, and things were now personal. With the bazooka, I charged right in, took out the targets, and went after the Zakus, while ignoring most of the targets, and then got ready for Rambaral. My first objective was to take out the 2 Zakus that appear next to Rambaral. The first one was a no real issue. The second one was a little slippery since I also had to dodge Rambaral, but I somehow managed to get them bunched up and unloaded my special attack. At long last, I had earned an S rating. Admittedly, I was still a little confused since my remaining life and success rate were both lower than my previous best, and I had taken out less targets than before. Really, the only thing I improved on was on my completion time, which was only some 20 seconds faster. So, perhaps the rating system for the game really is RNG based. Regardless, I had completed my goal of obtaining S ratings in all of the campaign missions. After some 20 years of having the game in my collection, my childhood self could finally rest feeling fulfilled and at peace.